And we're live. I'm here with Stephen Mary from Bellacore. How are you today?
Good, thanks. Very good. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. How's things in Australia? How's the weather down there?
It's pretty good, actually. We are towards the end of, well, we're in autumn now, obviously, but it's been pretty hot up until yesterday, really. 30 odd degrees Celsius for a lot of the days, so it's just beginning to feel like autumn now.
I don't want to jinx it, but so far, I must tell you, our internet connection is a lot better than the one I had with Andy Gillian from Morse Principe MS last week. He's also in Melbourne.
Yeah, where did he's from Morse Principe? He's British guy though, isn't he? Like.
Yeah. But he lives. He moved about a year ago to Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, very good. No, I was surprised. I saw a bit of that video actually. I was surprised to hear he lives in Melbourne.
Yeah, he's moved down there. But let's get into Bellacore. And the first question I wanted to ask you is about Vessels. When you start thinking of putting an album together, especially an album like that, where you have a concept, you have a story that you want to tell, what kind of work in the background does it go into putting an album like that together? Do you guys work on things separately? Does somebody come with an idea? Do you guys work it all together? How is the process behind putting an album like that together?
Vessels was definitely the hardest album for us to make because of that. We'd wanted to make a long story album for a lot of years. So the process for writing the music didn't change too much. We tended to write the songs just as normal, but then the lyrics was much more challenging. George and I tend to share the lyric writing. So we would meet a lot, meet often and chat about who was doing what and what the story arc would be. And there was a lot of thinking. And then once we had a plan for an actual story, George and I sort of divided up the songs a little bit and worked separately, and we'd meet up and talk about it. But the challenging thing was once we'd done that, the songs had to stay in their position. We couldn't take an Ember's Arc and put it as track 3 on the album because it was sort of locked in where it was in the story. So we really had to think pretty carefully about that before recording.
Yeah, because when you commit to something like that, you really stuck to that order, because anything you change, then it obviously is going to change the storytelling process, right?
Yeah, I mean that's right. Once we'd written the music, and then we started putting the lyrics to the music. But once we decided how that would fit, we really couldn't change it. Because often when you get into the studio, the songs you think might have been the ones you want early on actually may not come up as well, or you might be surprised at certain things, and you often do a bit of moving around, but we couldn't do that. But overall, we were still fairly happy with how it came together in the end, but it was definitely challenging.
Once you get to the studio, you guys are pretty much set already? Or when you get to the studio, there's still a little bit of fine-tuning with the songs, not only lyrically, but even musically?
We do tend to have almost everything completely written and set. Vessels was the one where we probably had the most tinkering in the studio. Stone's Reach and A Breath and Bone, we had literally every note, every single sample and sound chosen. So there was nothing really being added creatively in the studio, but Vessels we did spend a little bit more time on different sounds and guitar tones and just a little bit more experimentation, which was new for us, which was quite good.
Vessels to me was like the more I listened to that album, and it's kind of weird for me because the first song I heard from the album was actually Smoke of Many Fires, so I should have started obviously at a different place. But since listening to that song, I've delved into the album, and it's really incredible the work you guys did. Was the idea of putting an album like that with a story process, with a concept, the idea of one person, or you guys combined had the idea, okay, maybe it's the time to not tell individual stories, but tell individual stories that are a part of a much bigger picture?
Yeah, I really think, I don't know how long, maybe 3-4 years we'd sort of talked about, wouldn't it be a good thing to try and do one day? So that was the album we wanted to do it on. And I think George had the initial idea that kind of grew, but the idea about taking that story of energy coming from the sun, or a sun, and building on that was, I think once we had that initial idea and following it through different life forms, we were able to build on that by talking about ideas. But it was something we'd wanted to try for a while.
And now, following that, I mean, that album, I'm sure you said it before, you said it already that it's really, to me, I find it an incredible album. So now you guys got to follow up that album with a new album eventually. So that leads me into my next question, which is, when can we expect? I know you guys. I've seen some videos here and there on Facebook of you guys working on a new album. When can we expect the fifth album from Be'lakor?
To be realistic, we tend to take. I mean, we're writing the album this year, and we tend to take quite a while. It will be all of this year. We'll be writing the album. So 2018, hopefully finish the material if we can, and then we'll probably look to record the album early 2019. And then it's just a matter of how long it takes to record the album and actually release it. Best case scenario would be sort of mid 2019, I think, would be when the album could come out. But often things take a little longer than you expect. We'll just see how we go. It's we've written nearly 2 songs at the moment, and we're really kind of getting some momentum. We've got a lot of riffs and a lot of ideas, but we never really know how long it'll take until we get there.
I'm thinking by what you're saying that you guys don't like to rush. You just kind of like, take your time to make sure that what you put out, it's consistent with previous work that you guys have done. Like you guys really are methodical when it comes down to creating your craft and your art.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be, because we all work and we all really treat the band as a passion and a hobby that is growing and that we really enjoy. But there would be nothing worse for us than putting an album out that we thought wasn't the best album we could make at the time, or would really defeat the purpose. So we will take as long as it needs to take. Vessels was 4 years between Breath and Bone and Vessels was 4 years nearly. I don't think it'll be quite that long, but yeah, we won't be rushing to the point of harming the actual music, because that would really defeat the purpose, I think.
And this is not going to be, I'm assuming this is not going to be a concept album. This is going to be back to your regular album with each song having its own individual structure and story.
I think so. We really enjoyed writing Vessels as a story for the whole album, but we think it'd be nice to go back to being able to focus on each song individually, have that flexibility to where they're positioned on the album. It sort of frees you up a little bit more. I think Vessels was such a hard project. We're looking forward to just kind of going back to those periods of Stone's Reach and Breath and Bone, just write songs, feel a little bit freer, and I think it'll be really good. I'm looking forward to it.
Now, I have to ask you this question, not just about the upcoming album, but even previous albums. You guys don't release music videos, pretty much. Like even lyric videos, it's hard to find any videos. It's really hard to find anything from you guys. Is there a reason why? Is there done because you guys don't want to release stuff, or is there any maybe financial reasons behind? Is there any reason behind it?
Not really. I mean, early on it was probably like for the Frail Tide and for Stone's Reach, it was probably partly financial. We didn't really have money as a band. Now we've actually tried a couple of times. We've begun discussions with film companies and started work on videos that we've actually not followed through with in the end, because for whatever reason, we just didn't feel they were what we needed to put forward at that time. So we actually have wanted to, but we haven't quite done it yet. I think we'll probably do it for the next album to some extent, but it hasn't been an intentional, decision to try to keep mystery or to not have videos. But it's just fallen that way. I think we'll have at least 1 or 2 for the next album, and definitely more lyric videos. I think our music really lends itself to lyric videos because they just tell stories, so they seem to work quite well.
I was going to say that Smoke of Many Fires is a lyric video. You guys have a lyric video for that song, and I really feel that the lyric video really adds a lot to the storytelling of the music that you guys put together. Because almost the music becomes the soundtrack to the video itself. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but I think the two kind of go together very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think often if you hear a Be'lakor song, initially, unless you're reading the words, you probably wouldn't pick up on what the story was. It was just you would focus on the music, which is good. But if you've got the music and the lyrics there in front of you, it helps to really kind of follow what the story is. having said that, we do always hope that the music is what really would capture people. We focus on the music the most, and then obviously once the songs are written, that we then start to write the lyrics. But yeah, lyric videos really do work for any sort of storytelling approach, definitely.
I find the whole like up until now, because the lack of videos and the lack of almost anything Bellacore related that you can find on YouTube. I mean, you can find audio recordings from the albums, obviously, but the lack of videos, the lack of live performance, it's almost created like a cult image around the band. Do you feel that way?
I don't really know. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Like the forbidden fruit. You guys are like the forbidden fruit, you know?
So you think if we make some more videos, that'll just go? We'll lose that.
No, I honestly, I hope you guys make more videos. But I honestly always wondered if that was done on purpose, because it has created some sort of I don't know, like what's behind door number one. Like you really like you always try to learn more about the band, and you trying to learn as much as you can, and it's like the forbidden fruit. And I always felt that kind of aura really, I don't know, gives something extra to the band. It gives it a little of mystery to it, if you will.
That might have happened. Definitely, I think it's probably happened a little bit. I think we do try not to overdo things. Like we don't want to overdo promotion. We don't want to overdo touring, but we would like to tour a little bit more than we do. And in terms of videos, I think even if we do release a typical music video, it won't be. There's a certain sort of overdone style that some videos have. It won't be like that. We try to have that slightly understated approach to things, but I think a little more could be good. I know Napalm Records would be keen to see us get out there and tour a little bit more, and we would like to do that too. It's just a matter of making it work for everyone's schedules. But yeah, you might be right. It might be a bit of a mystery to it all as well.
Yeah, I really think it does add a little bit to the mystery. And now I mentioned it before. Like I feel like the band has there's a little bit of a cult following of the band, and to add to that, now Reddit has put it you guys as one of the so-called bands on the Melodeath Reddit section. I mean, that's got to feel good, but it also has got to feel bad. What's your take on that?
Well, because it's a funny one, because I think it was Insomnium and In Flames and us. And I mean, In Flames are massive and have been around for 20 years. Insomnium's definitely a lot bigger than us. So it was a little bit of an honor, and it was a little bit of because Reddit's really been cool. You know, things like Reddit and YouTube for expanding the people who know about our band. So it might be a bit of a double-edged sword, but it was certainly quite flattering as well, definitely.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was amazed, because for when you, like you said, when you compare the bands that are in that pot, and then you see yourselves in that pot with that company of In Flames and Insomnium, you know, while that may feel rewarding, then knowing that nobody can post your videos there anymore, you know, it may get you a little bit not upset, but a little bit sad that it's going to be harder for your music to reach new fans.
Maybe a little bit. I think, yeah, I mean, Spotify is really good. YouTube is really good. So word of mouth is always happening, and that's really good. But you're right, it might mean that a few less people get to post about it. So we'll see how it goes.
Actually, I just thought about that. Maybe we'll have the reverse effect, because now your name is in that band list. So if I'm a person going into Reddit and I see your name on that band section, maybe that will trigger me to go check you guys out, because wow, these guys must be really good.
Maybe, let's hope. That'd be great. Yeah.
I hope that's what everybody will think when they go to Reddit. I really hope so. You guys being in Australia, do you feel that geographically speaking, does that become a negative towards the band? Or do you feel that in today's modern day, where, for example, I'm in Toronto, Canada right now, you're in Melbourne, Australia, and we're talking on the internet, do you feel like today's modern day of music making and music consumption, boundaries and frontiers and geography doesn't really play a factor? Or do you feel being where you guys are could be a negative to the progression of the band going forward?
It is a negative, but only a very small negative. If we were trying to be a band 30 years ago, pre-internet, we would not have grown very much as a band. So the internet's been incredibly important. Yeah, we would like. I mean, if we lived in Europe, we would tour Europe more, definitely, because we could do it in a weekend. We could do it, and if we all had a week off, we could just go and do it. So it does limit the touring that we can do, but I don't think if we lived in Europe, we wouldn't be on the road all the time because we've chosen that that's not really the way to go for us. So it's a small factor. It's not a huge barrier, but it is a challenge. I think if you're a new band and you really want to tour all the time, and you're an Australian band, that would be really hard. Because even within Australia, touring is quite a big job. Because to get from Melbourne to Adelaide's 800 kilometres, and Melbourne to Sydney's 1,000 kilometres. So you can't really just get in a van and play shows every night without doing a lot of touring and a lot of driving in Australia. So it's challenging in that respect, but it hasn't. Certainly, we don't feel like it's prevented us from doing too much. And in some ways, like you talked about the mystery, I think when people find out we are Australian, it sort of makes them sort of interested because they might think we have a European sound. So the Australian factor can.
I'm totally with you on that. The first time I heard you guys, I couldn't believe you guys were from Australia. You know, because I wasn't familiar with the Australian music scene as much as I am today. So the first time I heard you guys, I was like, these guys are from Australia? They don't sound, I mean, I sound like an idiot because I said they don't sound like they're from Australia, not knowing exactly what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think people don't, it is a European sound of it's a genre that is big in Europe, definitely. So people probably rightly assume that we're from Finland or Sweden or Norway or something like that. But Australia is really going well. There's a lot of Australian metal bands now that are making really good music and getting kind of quite a bit of exposure overseas as well. So I think in the past 2 years, I've really noticed people saying things like, "Oh wow, you know, the Australian metal scene is going very well, or is producing a lot of good bands." So in some ways, it's forming its own little niche that attracts people's interest as well, which is kind of cool.
How do you see the Australian metal scene from when you guys got started to now? Do you see that evolution? Were there many bands around when you guys got started versus now? Because now, like you said, there's a lot of quality bands, not just bands, but quality bands coming out of Australia.
There's definitely been a change. When we started, there were some what we saw as huge Australian bands, but it felt like there were less of them. I think there was, bands like the Berserker, Psychoptic, Bloodduster. There was a few fairly big. I mean, obviously there's the really big ones like AC/DC and huge bands. But I think the number of professional, polished Australian metal acts has really grown. So it might have been 5 or 10 when we started. Alarum was a band that this is about 12 years ago we were starting. They were one of the big internationally known Australian bands in our view, and then things have grown since then. I think there'd be 20 or 30 bands now that are pretty big that are Australian doing good things. So it's certainly changed.
Have you guys ever considered? I know you said it's hard to travel within Australia due to the distance, but did you guys ever consider joining up with some other bands like Diartis Murder or Valhalla, for example, which is a really cool band from Australia that I really like? Have you guys ever thought about doing like an all Australian tour or an all Australian festival to really promote, not just from within, but really, show the outside world that, hey, we have really quality bands here and quality music?
I think that'd be really good. I have thought about like that sort of thing that you could do. Like you could take 3 or 4 Australian bands overseas and do a month in America or a month in Europe and really showcase it as Australian metal. I think that could work really well. Touring within Australia, maybe not as much, just because there's really only 6 or so capital cities that you could go to, so it'd be a very short tour. But yeah, I think that's a good idea, and there are some Australian bands that would be great to tour with, and there you could really show what Australia's got, which would be cool.
Did you guys, thinking of that, now taking it to a next step, like instead of just touring with a group of Australian bands outside in Europe or North America, have you guys ever considered, I know you said before that you have regular jobs and the band is something that you do for love and passion, but did you guys ever consider moving to Europe, for example, to maybe take the band to the next level and be 100% committed to the band and working with the band?
I think we talked about it really briefly, maybe 7, 8 years ago, but we didn't really ever consider that seriously. Um, lots of reasons. We have obviously family here, and one of the guys, Sean, has got 2 young daughters now. Um, so he would certainly, that would be hard for him. But we're all partners, and we've all got a fairly sort of strong set of things that keep us here. And our jobs, in not many cases, the jobs we kind of enjoy, and we're enjoying growth in those careers as well, I guess. So there'd be reasons to keep us here but the band is still something we really care about, and it's our main kind of creative outlet, and it's also our main friendship group and stuff. So we would never really see the band ending, but I think that step to Europe would be to uproot everything and go over there would be really hard. And also, I mean, touring for us is something we really enjoy doing in bursts, but the reason we started the band was to write songs, and that's still the main thing that we want to do is write music. So the touring supports that, but we could still tour and live in Melbourne and write music, so it works well.
It's interesting what you're saying. So you guys, that to me is really, really cool and interesting, and it goes with the whole vibe that the band has that I really feel when I listen to you guys' music. Is that to me it sounds like you're a bunch of friends that just want to have a creative outlet, want to have a place where you guys can come together, play, and have that creativity come outside. And then if people like it, great. But regardless, we're going to do what we enjoy doing, and then just hope that other people feel the same way we feel about it. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I think
point?
that's a fair way of putting it. Absolutely. Certainly, when we started, we just wanted to make music. And that is still the thing that keeps us going. When the band's grown, it's become quite challenging because in some ways you made music for yourself, but then some other people like it, and then they probably want to hear certain things in the music that you made. There's an element of pressure, but we don't really let that worry us because we do want to do it for ourselves, and as long as we're enjoying it, we'll keep doing it. But I like the way you put it. That was a good way of putting it. If you want to listen to it,
yeah, I think the vibe that I get, even just from talking to you and just from listening to the music, I think it really comes across in the music, because it comes across as music that it's not being created to generate revenue or to generate fame. It's really done just for the pleasure of doing it, and then it's like we enjoy it, and we hope that there's other people out there that enjoy it as much as we do, and therefore the growth, to me, I find that the growth of the band has really been organic in that perspective.
It does feel like it's been organic, because again, the internet's really been the thing that's made that possible. I think when we released The Proud Tide, we just put it up onto MySpace at the time, and it was a huge shock when this guy over in England liked it, and we had a fan, and then from that point on, it's just been people talking and YouTube and word of mouth, and we have done some touring, but not very much. I think we've played 10 or 12 shows in Europe ever. So it hasn't been the touring that's been why there's been growth. So it has been fairly organic, I think, and that's been really cool.
Now, in this organic growth, let's dream a little here. So I remember a couple of years ago, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, I don't know if this is true, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that there was a petition going on to make Parkway Drive's Vice Grip the new anthem, national anthem in Australia. So my question to you is this: any chance of Countless Skies perhaps becoming the next national anthem? Because to me, I know this, I'm a big fan of Parkway Drive and I like Vice Grip, but Countless Skies would make such an epic national anthem.
If you had that before sporting events, the sporting events would never get started, would they? 10 minutes.
Have you ever heard the Jamaican national anthem?
No.
I think it's longer than 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good. They're classics. But no, look, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? That'd be a good move, I reckon.
Yeah, I think whoever was behind that petition, we need to get in touch with that person or people, whoever they are, and get a petition to make. At this point, I'm willing to go with any Bellacore song. Just pick any, because they're all good, and let's make that the next national anthem. I think,
would people be growling the vocals, or would they be humming the guitar melodies, or what's actually happening?
I honestly didn't think about that part, but now you're throwing a wrench into my world domination plan that would start in Australia.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to put a bit of a challenge into your thinking there. But
there goes my plan. See, I want to ask you a couple more questions. One question is, and we touched this before. Was there any specific bands, either in Australia or outside Australia, that really inspired you guys? Not just to start the band, but even to pick up an instrument and start playing.
there'd be a lot. It's a long list. I mean, if you go back to when we're kids, I know George, he liked Pink Floyd and Queen, and I really like Queen's music. For me, AC/DC and Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, Status Quo, sort of 70s rock. And then probably when we were starting the band, it was, Opeth, albums like Morning Rise. And we were all really obsessed with Morning Rise for a couple of years, and I still kind of am obsessed with it. In Flames, all their early albums, Dark Tranquillity. And then more recently, it's been a bit more divergent. Like, we've listened to... George has a taste for some really heavy music, like Cannibal Corpse, Gojira, Emperor. I like a lot of Agalloch. Animals as Leaders and Deathspell Amiga. George and I both quite like Deathspell. So there's different stuff now that's coming in and Vessel's probably showed a bit of that, where there's a little bit of things that aren't just straight melodic death metal, but it's still meant to be basically melodic death metal with some other influences. But John likes music that's not metal as well. He listens to some trance and stuff. There's a lot of influences coming in that we try to take from. But going back, yeah, definitely anything that was melodic and catchy and creative stuff growing up was always interesting.
So those bands influenced you guys, and when you speak of a local band like AC/DC, I'm sure that was a huge influence on you guys. So now, looking at where you guys stand, do you feel like you guys are now an influence on some of the newer bands coming out of Australia, perhaps?
Maybe a little bit. I actually don't know as much about within Australia. Probably a little bit, but occasionally we hear things online. Probably, there's a British band that called themselves after one of our songs, Countless Skies.
Yeah,
so that's
nice.
That was pretty cool, and that was, I guess, an obvious way of seeing that we might have influenced them. But there haven't been many local bands that I feel that we've influenced. It's partly because we tour, infrequently, so we don't get to go out and see as much of what's happening. But yeah, if we are able to influence them, that'd be really cool.
One last question for you. 2018, I know you guys are working on the new album. Like you said, 2019 is where you guys are aiming. You have a couple of songs already done. What other plans do you guys have? Any plans for some festivals in Europe, festivals in North America, some smaller tours, besides working on an album? Because I know you guys are going to continue working on this album throughout the year. So besides that, any other plans you have?
Not really, because what we do is we tend to shut up shop a little bit when we are writing an album. One of the reasons for that is that when we tour, we tend to rehearse for a couple of months and get ready. So we would see that as 2 or 3 months that maybe not spent writing the music. So we will probably spend most of 2018 working on the actual writing of the album, and then look to plan some cool tours once the album's coming out. We would love to get to America one day, very soon, because it's been talked about now within the band for a few years. So I think when the new album's out, we'll try to do Europe again, and America for the first time, and Australia obviously, and see where we can go after that. But 2018 I think will be a year where we're tucked away writing pretty much.
So 2018 is going to be bunker down. Let's get this album done. Let's work on it, and then once the album comes out in 2019, then you guys will be looking at playing. Now, will the label play a part in helping you guys set up those tours or those festivals, or do you guys are pretty much in control of your own destiny when it comes to that?
Napalm Records is very, very keen to help us tour more, and they've offered some support. So when we do a tour next, I think Napalm will be helping with that. They'll be helping with the some of the arrangements and bookings and stuff like that. So that'll be really good, which is really helpful because obviously that is one of the ways where when you're in Australia, the distance can be challenging. You may not have as many of those contacts, and it's a bit harder to get your head around arranging a tour. So yeah, Napalm Records will be really cool when we do get to that stage.
Well, Stephen, I really want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with this crazy Canadian and answer all of my questions. And I really think we should work together on this takeover of the national anthem with Countless Skies. I mean, I think we need to start an online petition, maybe not on Reddit because you guys are banned now, but maybe perhaps somewhere else. But I really want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and answer my questions. I'm a big fan of you guys. I'm going to continue to support you guys in any way I can. So I'm going to be looking forward to that new album in 2019. And I just want you guys to know that you don't not only have a fan here, but you have a friend here that whatever I can do to help you guys out, you guys let me know.
That's really good. Thank you so much. I enjoyed watching your videos that you do, you guys, and I really enjoy watching your passion for the music. So, and I can tell, even talking to you, you really care about it and you're interested in it. So thank you so much for that. And if we can get over to Canada sometime, hopefully we can catch up.
Yeah, even if you guys come close enough to the border, I'll make my way to New York because we're really close to New York. So if you guys were ever playing, like New York State is what, maybe an hour and a half drive from me, so that's not a big deal. So if you guys were playing anywhere in the New York area, I could easily make my way down with my kid and come to a concert for sure. It would be, to me, it would be much easier, cheaper, and affordable than going all the way to Australia.
That's true. Now that'd be cool. It's good that you live that close to New York as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, but Toronto is very close to New York, and the two cities are very similar in terms of being huge cities and with a huge music influence. We have a lot of clubs, and actually, Die Artist Murder was just here, I think a week ago, touring with Dying Fetus. So, and in Parkway Drive, they come here quite a bit as well. So we get almost every single tour that is going around in North America, they stop in Toronto. It's like guaranteed. So I'm sure if you guys were to come to North America, Toronto would probably be one of those stops.
Awesome. That sounds like definitely a good place to stop for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can take you guys for some good food. I know some good.
Where would you take us? What sort of food would you feed us?
Well, I'm Canadian, but I'm Portuguese, so I would definitely have to take you guys to have some Portuguese food, which is more fish. I don't know if you guys like fish.
I could do some fish for sure.
Yeah, so some fish, some good beer, wine, and I'm also a big fan of Japanese food. I like sushi. So see, the thing about Toronto is that it's a very multicultural city, so you can pretty much find any restaurant of any country you want in the city of Toronto. Like if you feel like having Ethiopian food, you can have Ethiopian food. You want to have Japanese, you can have Japanese. So if you guys come here, you will be well fed. My promise to you.
That's very kind. It sounds like Melbourne. Melbourne's also very, you can eat Ethiopian and anything under the sun really that you want to find. It's fairly multicultural and there's a lot of good food here too. So if you ever come to Melbourne, let us know.
I will for sure. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.